Hello everyone, welcome back to Empire Pro. Or, if you're new here, thank you for clicking on this video. Today I want to get back to my longer form style of content, focusing on a wrestler I've admired greatly ever since discovering her. The Flying Angel, Manami Toyota. Making her debut at just 16 years old for Japan's top Joshi promotion, AJW, in 1987, Toyota grew up to become one of, if not the most successful and influential women's wrestler of all time. And maybe even that glowing statement could be considered insulting, as you could easily make the argument that Manami Toyota is one of the GOATs of pro wrestling, regardless of gender. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the incredible career of the Joshi Queen, the Flying Angel, Manami Toyota. A plucky young 16-year-old Manami Toyota would make her debut for All Japan Women's Promotion AJW on August 5th, 1987, against Sachiko Nakamura. Thrusted into a violent, ruthless style of pro wrestling, it really was adapt or die in AJW during the late 1980s to early 90s. And it's safe to say that the career path that lay ahead for Toyota, she certainly did adapt. And more than that, she helped change the landscape for what was possible for Joshi wrestlers at the time. It wasn't long before Manami Toyota was a household name for fans of pro wrestling, especially in Japan. Her big break came in just her second year as a pro, on the first WrestleMania show at Yokohama Arena on May 6, 1989, teaming with Mima Shimoda as the Tokyo Sweethearts, defeating Etsuko Mita and Toshio Yamada in a match that practically stole the show from even the more established veterans on the card, which already included the likes of Bull Nakano, Lioness Asuka, and Alundra Blaze, to name but a few. The match personified and encapsulated everything so special about Manami Toyota, filled with high-flying action, death-defying stunts, hard-hitting double-team moves, as well as some excruciating close near-falls, leaving the fans breathless and begging for more. When the bout was released as part of a 4-hour commercial tape, Toyota became recognized as a wrestler to watch. Tape traders rejoiced, and the Flying Angel was birthed on a global stage. Toyota then won her first title on November 18, 1989, defeating Mika Takahashi for the AJW Championship. Toyota would go on to defend the title 3 times, including one defense against her future rival, Kyoko Inoue, on August 1st, 1990, before vacating the belt on September 1st. The following month, on October 7th in Tokyo, she challenged Bison Kimura for the All-Pacific Championship and would emerge victorious. However, she only managed to defend the title once before losing to Sasuke Minami on March 17th, 1991. Even in spite of all her singles success, Toyota's tag team wrestling career was just as impressive. Returning to her roots and a match that truly put her on the map, Toyota found an ally to truly take over the tag team scene in Japan during the early 1990s. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, they might say. Enter Toshio Yamada. Initially, following the Tokyo Sweethearts' success, the AJW hierarchy felt that they could well be the next beauty pair, or crush gals, 2 of Joshi Wrestling tag team royalty from previous generations. However, Toyota's real chemistry came not with Shimoda, but with Yamada, whose styles was unlike Toyota's, and provided more of a contrast. Yamada was a slightly built, short-haired, kicking specialist who idolized both Chigusa Nagoya and Akira Maeda. Unlike other wrestlers who heavily relied on kicks and submissions, Yamada could also work the rapid-paced match style, and was accomplished at building to near falls with repeated kickouts at the last possible moment. She was a star in her own right, and the yin-yang approach between the pair truly made them stand out amongst other tag teams of the 90s Joshi scene. Despite their outrageously outstanding tag matches throughout the early to mid-90s, the pair would in fact start out as foes. Starting in 1989, the two found themselves wrestling each other many times over a 2-year span. At the start of 1992, the two won their first tag team championships when they defeated Kaori and Lady Apache in Tokyo on January 19th for the UWA Women's World Tag Team Championships. Their singles feud was not yet over, however, and it reached a climax on August 15th, 1992, in a hair versus hair match. The bout was a dramatic one, not least due to what occurred after the match was over. Toyota, even though she had won the match, did not want Yamada to get her head shaved, and had to be forcefully restrained by 5 prelim girls outside of the ring, who eventually forced her back to the mat. In respect of the match's conditions, Yamada wanted her head shaved and went ahead with the stipulation. Even despite her early success with Shimada, her breakout came when she partnered with Yamada, a partnership that would define an era. The two women would put on classic after classic together, defying what many fans and budding journalists thought was possible for not only women's wrestling, but tag team wrestling in general. As research for this video, I decided to watch a trilogy of matches pitting the team of Toyota and Yamada against Dynamite Kansai and Mayumi Ozaki. I found these matches sorted chronologically on a Reddit thread, all of which I have linked in the description of this video if you want to check it out for yourself, which, based on what I saw, I highly recommend. With all 3 matches taking place in a little over a year, spanning from November 1992 to December of 1993, it's safe to say these are some of the best tag team matches you are likely to ever lay eyes upon. All 3 matches were contested for the WWWA, also known as the 3WA or the World Women's Wrestling Association Tag Team Championships, the top gold in AJW, and all of Japan at the time, to be honest. It's a golden age of Japanese Puro and Joshi. These matches not only held their own, but excelled in their own right, to the point of still being relevant in any greatest trilogy of all time wrestling debate today. On November 26th, at AJW's Dream Rush show, Toyota and Yamada defended their WWA Tag Team titles against Dynamite Kansai and Mayumi Ozaki in a 2 out of 3 falls match, the first in the trilogy, and honestly, my favourite out of the 3. At Dream Slam 2 on April 19th, 1993, Toyota and Yamada fought a rematch against JPW, Joshi Puroresu, Kansai and Ozaki, in yet another highly rated 2 out of 3 falls encounter. This time, however, Toyota and Yamada were on the losing side, and Kansai and Ozaki got their revenge. The feud would then conclude at AJW's St. Battle final event on December 6th, 1993, where Toyota and Yamada regained Tag Team Gold. The trilogy was over, and it's honestly just a perfect 3 series of matches. Please go out of your way to watch this. It's just an absolute spectacle from start to finish, especially the 2 out of 3 falls encounters. They are just incredible pro wrestling. And with the 2-1 win in the series, Toyota and Yamada cemented themselves as one of the greatest tag teams in Joshi history, and arguably pro wrestling as a whole. All 3 matches were filled with incredible high-flying, brutal Japanese strong-style strikes and suplexes, as well as some of the craziest kickouts I've honestly ever seen. If you get the time, please check out these matches if you haven't already, because trust me, you won't be disappointed. Manami Toyota was an incredible pro wrestler, but she didn't have the physical presence necessarily that would strike fear into her opponents, such as the likes of Aja Kong and Lioness Asuka. She wouldn't come to the ring wearing intimidating face paint, she wasn't 6 foot tall, but that, in its essence, is what made Manami Toyota stand out from the rest of the roster. Toyota was a true underdog, and she played that role tremendously, especially against two of her biggest foes in the likes of Aja Kong and Bull Nakano. Aja Kong was a monstrous villain, often wearing purple gear and face paint, and being known for his extremely violent strikes and power. And Bull Nakano with her striking appearance, wild hair, face paint, and incredible in-ring ability, as well as cold and imitating attitude, much similar to Aja Kong herself. The 5'6", slim Toyota, often dressed in all black, on paper at least, would never stand a chance. But underestimating her simply based on her appearance was a silly mistake to make, as her death-defying high-flying and aerial assaults gave her the Flying Angel moniker. And being completely honest, I don't think I've ever seen a tougher wrestler than Manami Toyota. Toyota was often ragdolled around by the likes of Aja Kong and Bull Nakano, women twice her size, and still get back up after landing on the back of her neck, or even her head in some cases. I think Toyota took the AJW mandatory retirement age of 26 a little too seriously, making sure that every move she hit and endured felt as real as possible. Sometimes possibly a little too real to her own detriment, but it certainly helped create the image that Toyota was not someone to mess with, and judging her on appearance was just simply a very naive thing to think. Toyota might not have looked the part necessarily, but once she got in the ring, she made it known just who she was and what she was capable of. As I mentioned earlier, AJW in the 90s and Joshi wrestling as a whole was brutal. It was extremely intense, hard-hitting, dangerous, and very violent. So Toyota's persona of the valiant underdog carved out a niche for her, a role that arguably couldn't be filled by anyone else, especially considering how willing Toyota was to give absolutely everything in every single match. Toyota's biggest rival throughout her career was undeniably the final boss of Joshi wrestling, Aja Kong. The rivalry between Aja Kong and Manami Toyota was one of the most iconic feuds in the 1990s Joshi puroresu world, both debuting with AJW in the mid-1980s and quickly evolved into contrasting forces for the ages. The powerhouse, merciless Kong versus the lightning-fast, acrobatic Toyota, in a true David versus Goliath feud. Toyota was a star of All Japan's Women Pro Wrestling, AJW, known for her near-perfect performances and innovative offense. Aja Kong, on the other hand, was a force of nature in JWP, or Japanese Women's Pro Wrestling. Their first match as opponents took place on the 26th of May 1991, with the two slugging it out in a time-limit draw. But this, of course, was the first of many. To be at the top, you had to beat those who were already there. And with the draw in their first encounter, both women had a point to prove. They would face off once again the following year in the Japan Grand Prix 1992 final, this time with the monstrous Aja Kong reigning victorious. I could go on and on examining each encounter piece by piece that these two warriors had over the decade-long feud, such as their incredible matches at AJW Budokan Queens event in 97, the Zenjo movement in 95, the Zenjo Brightest in 96, and so on, trading wins and time-limit draws across many battles, with the last taking place in 2017. But honestly, I want to focus more on one match itself in this particular video. And maybe we can do an entire video itself for the other matches, but like I say, I want to stay on point with a particular match. A match that you could honestly make the case for being not only one of the best Joshi matches, but one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time. Period. That honour would go to Aja Kong versus Manami Toyota at Big Egg Wrestling Universe, November 20th, 1994. I would say that you could argue that this match is the greatest All Japan women's match of all time, but first you'd have to find someone that disagrees with that statement to begin with. And to be honest, I think you'd be hard to find very few that think that way. In the midst of their ongoing rivalry, Kong and Toyota would meet in the first round match of the V-Top tournament on one of All Japan's biggest cards to date, Big Egg Wrestling Universe. If you watched All Japan's women's video essay, the video I made about a few months ago, I summarised this event by saying it is hands down an all-time classic event, which I own myself on DVD, so it's so long in fact that it comes in 4 separate discs. If you thought AEW All in Texas was a long show, check out this 24 match long masterpiece. But it was a match placed around the middle of this card that stands the test of time and above anything else on the show. A match of the decade contender in an opening round tournament match. Now that's something pretty special. These two had already fought numerous times up to this point, but this match in particular really plays into the David versus Goliath role better than anything I've honestly seen in my 26 years of watching pro wrestling. Sure, there's Hogan and Andre, Bret Yokozuna, Lesnar Daniel Bryan, but then there's Toyota and Aja Kong. Manami Toyota walks to the ring in her red robe, showing little to no emotion, preparing for battle, whereas the monster Aja Kong's music echoes around the arena, with Kong entering through thick smoke at the top of the entrance ramp, face paint and all, marching confidently to the ring, posing at the top of the ramp, as the WWA Women's World Championship glistens under the bright lights of the Tokyo Dome, with a full capacity of 42,500 watching on in sheer awe. From the moment the bell rings, Toyota lands a stiff dropkick as the champion is caught off guard. The action only intensifies from there, as the two women burst into life, and Toyota almost nicks a win very early on with a sunset roll, followed by a sunset bomb from the top rope. There's something so brutal about hearing these two crash off the canvas in the Tokyo Dome, as the ring mat sounds like it's very little give in it, not leaving a lot to the imagination. All Japan women rings just seem to be milled out of pure brick. I mean, it sounds extremely painful. Aja Kong is an absolute beast in this match as well, putting the Kong name to good use, as she wrenches Toyota back with a modified camel clutch, bending Toyota in ways no human should physically be able to. Shortly after this, she applies on an extremely deep Boston Crab to the petite Toyota, with Toyota screaming in agony but refusing to go down in defeat. Moments later, after gaining momentum, Toyota leaps from the canvas directly onto the top rope and lands a beautiful crossbody. This was a simple move in the grand scheme of things, but honestly something I don't think I've ever seen really be utilised in modern pro wrestling. One of the more brutal spots in this match came just a few minutes later, as Aja Kong drops Toyota face first on the entrance ramp with a face buster. But again, Toyota isn't ready to give up just yet. Even after Aja Kong would ragdoll Toyota around in the next portion of the match, hitting her with his signature piledriver, amongst many other looking scary bumps and slams to the mat. Toyota, valiant as ever, fights back with the admiration of the crowd, springboarding to Kong on the outside, followed up by her infamous missile dropkick from the top rope, once again to the outside. And because of course that wasn't badass enough from Toyota, she then grabs a table, sets it up with Kong laying dormant on the outside of the ring. Toyota climbs to the top and delivers a brutal frog splash, and the Tokyo Dome echoes the name Manami Toyota. The fans are now in full jaw-dropping adulation, with both women exchanging heavy strikes and power moves, near fall after near fall, until the climax. Aja Kong nails Toyota with her screwdriver finish, essentially a Michinoku driver brainbuster, for the win. The relentless onslaught from Aja Kong proved too much for Toyota on this occasion. But there isn't a better underdog versus final boss story in wrestling better than this, in my opinion. The hero may not have won, but she gained immense respect, and went down on her sword, like any great warrior should. This is essential viewing for pretty much any fan of pro wrestling. I've linked the full match in the description of this video, and this really is one of the greatest pro wrestling matches you are likely to ever see. Manami Toyota would have so many successes in her career, but if you ask me, her feud with Aja Kong is at the pinnacle. It just personifies everything that Manami Toyota is about. True fighting spirit from the flying angel herself, Manami Toyota. By the late 1990s and following into the early 2000s, AJW was starting to suffer greatly from financial difficulties, losing their TV spot, as well as many talents leaving to pursue other opportunities. 1997 would prove to be a nightmare year for All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling, as the owners of All Japan's Women went bankrupt after losing money in real estate, the stock markets, and other business ventures. Due to this, they lost 14 wrestlers from July to September of 1997. Inoue, Mita, Shimoda, Asari, Tamura, and others left to form NEO Japan Ladies Pro Wrestling. Toshio Yamada left for Gaia Japan, Aja Kong, Mariki Yoshida, Reggie Bennett, Rumi Fuaka, and Raya Tamada left to form Irison. AJW was in complete disarray. In 2002, it was Manami Toyota's decision to stop wrestling full-time for AJW, needing more financial stability somewhere that AJW couldn't offer at the time, being brought into Gaia Japan by longtime rival Aja Kong. I think it's worth commending Toyota, as she was one of the very few top stars that didn't leave AJW entirely, until its eventual collapse and closure in 2005. Even competing on their very final TV show, airing on Samurai TV, on April 19th, 2005. Toyota was brought in by Aja Kong to Chigusa Nagoya's Gaia Japan promotion, where she competed with her old partner Toyoshiko Yamada, as well as Dynamite Kansai. She wrestled in Gaia Japan from 2002 to 2004, before moving on to more of a freelance role in Japan, gradually reducing her schedule over the next 3 years due to the wear and tear on her body from the brutality she endured during her time with All Japan Women. Toyota would put her wrestling career on hiatus after her August 2007 tribute show, where she wrestled in every single match, taking a year out before returning the following year in the summer of 2008. On a Wrestling Observer poll taken on March 20th, 2009, Toyota was voted as the greatest female wrestler of all time, garnering an incredible 31% of the vote. Toyota would then make a true comeback in early 2010, as she began working regular dates for the OZ Academy, or Oz Academy Joshi promotion, in Japan. She would wrestle there sporadically throughout the years before her ultimate retirement in 2017. But we'll get to that in just a moment. By September of 2010, Manami Toyota began a new uncharted venture for the now veteran Joshi star, a trip to the West, joining US indie promotion Shikara for regular bookings, still under the freelance umbrella. Toyota would go on to wrestle the likes of Claudio Castagnoli, Chuck Taylor, Maiko Satomura, Johnny Gargano, Amazing Red, and many other top stars in her US excursion, before eventually returning to Japan in early 2013. Toyota would then venture to the UK for a match with Pro Wrestling Eve on November 26, 2016, after a 2-year hiatus from pro wrestling. It was becoming clear that the Flying Angel was starting to wind down on her extraordinary career, which would finally come to an end later in 2017, wrestling one final match with longtime rival Aja Kong for the Oz Academy on October 29th in a losing effort, before her ultimate retirement show a week later on November 3rd, once again for the Oz Academy. On March 17th of 2017, Toyota announced that she would officially retire from pro wrestling on November 3rd, with her final match at a special 30-year anniversary show in her honor in Japan. Toyota's retirement event featured a series of 1-minute time limit matches, which Toyota finished with a record of 12 wins, 29 draws, and 10 losses. Toyota then had her retirement match with no time limit against her hand-picked opponent, Tezuka Fujimoto, which she won with her Japanese Ocean Cyclone suplex finish. However, Toyota demanded a rematch and went on to defeat Fujimoto, again with the Japanese Ocean Queen Bee Bomb. Toyota and Fujimoto then had a third match where Fujimoto was victorious with Toyota's own Japanese Ocean Cyclone suplex, bringing Toyota's 30-year career to an end. The best Joshi wrestler of all time had finally called it a day. After an incredible career spanning 3 glorious decades, Manami Toyota had firmly cemented herself amongst the greatest names in pro wrestling history, winning championships in AJW, Gaia Japan, Oz Academy, UWA, JWP, Ice Ribbon, amongst others, as well as earning 2 Match of the Year awards for a tag match with Yamada against Kansai and Ozaki in 1993, as well as her 1995 Instant Classic with Kyoko Inoue. And there certainly isn't a shortage of praise for the Flying Angel either. She's inspired so many wrestlers and fans alike to up their game in the ring, and is still inspiring people to this day. Top superstars of the business such as Chris Jericho, Will Ospreay, Chris Hero, MVP, Mercedes Moné, and so many more have weighed in on her amazing career and had glowing praise for the Flying Angel. Chris Jericho would tweet out in November of 2023, quote, "A legit contender for the true GOAT of pro wrestling, and I'm talking men and women," end quote. Current AEW and former WWE star Mercedes Moné, formerly known as WWE's Sasha Banks, stated, quote, "My number one dream opponent would be Manami Toyota. If I could wrestle her from the 90s, maybe 92, my head would probably be kicked off in the 10th row. But I would give it all. I think she's one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time. So that would be a dream match for me." End quote. Wrestlers like Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega, Sara Del Rey, Natalya Neidhart, Gail Kim, as well as many more wrestlers like Shinsuke Nakamura, MVP, cite Toyota as a major influence of inspiration. Her storytelling, innovation, and in-ring psychology and skill are frequently studied and emulated to this day. But it's safe to say that many may have tried, and some have came close, but there will never be another Flying Angel. There will never be another Manami Toyota. Thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell for post notifications. I love making these longer form content videos, so if this is something you guys enjoy, please let me know what you'd like to see next. But that's your lot from me. Until next time, Empire out.